It's noon here in Ventnor City, New Jersey, and our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. And this is CarEdge Live with your hosts, me, Ray, and, well, that nice young man, Zach. What is happening today, handsome? Since, well, Hyundai, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram just shocked the entire automobile industry. You know, as I like to say, if it isn't shocking, we can't talk about it.
I'm telling you, man, every weekend there's big stories that break. We'll be covering the Hyundai and Stellantis news in just a moment. Before we do, today's show brought to you by CarEdge, CarEdge.com, CarEdge.com. So proud of what we've been doing back on the website. All sorts of free resources, tools, and more available for you on CarEdge.com. Please, if we can help you buy a new or used car, we would love the opportunity to, as well as help researching your vehicle, getting warranty protection, selling a vehicle, refinancing, or auto insurance. Check it all out, CarEdge.com. Dad, where to start? Do you think we should start with the Stellantis news, or do you think we should head over to the Hyundai news? Both companies had major developments over the past, 72 hours. What do you think?
Hey, you're the director. Let's start with Stellantis.
All right, folks. Tim Kuniskis, excuse me if I'm mispronouncing your name, Mr. Kuniskis, returns to Stellantis as Ram CEO after Carlos Tavares exit. One way to really make sure your business evolves and changes is to rehire the people that you fired back in June. Dad, Tim Kuniskis was previously employed at Stellantis in a leadership role just a few months ago, and now he is back leading the charge. This is fascinating.
It is, 5 months into retirement, and he said, I have had enough. And now that my main nemesis, Carlos Tavares, is gone, could I get my job back? Can I come back? Can I help straighten the stuff out that's going on at Stellantis? Can I make Stellantis and Dodge and Ram great again? And apparently the board decided that, well, if there is a man for this job, a man or a woman, and in this case it's a man, It's him. Tim is back. Should make the dealers very happy, I would think.
I would hope so. Although we should say, Dad, Ram has been struggling mightily. If you've been following this channel for a while, you know that whenever we go to the crazy CarEdge machine and we click on search cars and we type in here, Ram 1500, we want to look at new ones. Drum roll, please. Let's click on this one. Let's scroll on down to market days supply, 179 days supply. That's too high. That's on the 2025s, and we know these dealers have a bunch of 2024s. So is it really going to be exciting for dealers that you're bringing back someone who helped get this automaker into the current situation that they're in, which is, to be very clear, quite screwed? Stellantis is quite screwed. You don't want your dealers holding on to 100+ days supply of inventory, and we know they are.
Well, it was suspicious at best when he retired in June. It was a little bit of a surprise that suddenly he was gone. It was like he's gone, and maybe it's because this is just pure speculation and opinion on my part, but maybe it's because he disagreed with what Carlos Tavares and the rest of the upper management at Stellantis thought was the appropriate way to approach the North American market. And my suspicion is that he did disagree with the way they were going about it, and he was asked nicely, to leave. It's time, could be time to retire. Have you ever thought about retirement?
So this could be, I'm hearing you say, Dad, this could be someone who was trying to fight back against what we're currently seeing in the market, which, again, folks, you just go to the CarEdge machine, you type in Ram 1500. These are the 2025s, okay, that have 179 days supply. The CarEdge fair price is $2,500 below the invoice price. Like, if you're a dealer, that's a bad situation to be in. And we're not even looking at the 2024s. Let's find one really quick just to humor ourselves. Let me come here, Dad, year. Because we know the 2024s are the ones that have, what was it, currently like $15,000 in incentives against them?
Quite a bit.
Let's see. Okay, only a 51 days supply here. So they're actually finally turning over this inventory. But Dad, so maybe what you're saying is the person that got them into that situation was Carlos Tavares. This man, Tim Kuniskis, was trying to fight back. That's why he was, let go of back in June. Was okay. He was pushing back against leadership, and now they're saying, "Oh crap, maybe we should have listened to Tim." So this could actually be really good news for consumers and for dealers.
It could be. I mean, I don't know. This is pure speculation and opinion on my part. If he wasn't disagreeing with upper management in Europe as to how they should handle North America, my guess is he wouldn't have been asked to leave. Okay. The only reason he was asked to leave was because he didn't think the direction they were headed was the right direction. He didn't think they were helping their dealers relieve themselves of this inventory in a manner that needed to be done. Perhaps he didn't feel as if everything that they built should just be high-end, high-profit margin vehicles.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is just speculation.
Yeah.
But it seems to me that he left rather quickly and shockingly in June to pursue retirement, and 5.5 months later, those who are left in upper management at Stellantis and European headquarters has said, this is the guy we need to bring back in order to run Ram. So it has to be he had a different idea than Tavares.
Let's switch gears, Dad. Let's jump over to Hyundai. Hyundai's the other automaker that made waves over the weekend. And this is happening across many manufacturers. Remember, we talked about Nissan a couple of weeks ago. They got rid of their CFO. We are seeing immense turnover at the executive level at these companies. We talked about Hyundai on Friday, but they were getting in trouble because one of their dealers was selling vehicles as new vehicles when they were used. Well, now the headline from Hyundai is they're getting rid of and streamlining their North American sales organization, their U.S. sales organization, putting a new person in charge of their sales for the United States. Dad, you've worked for many automakers that I'm sure have done this over the years. Do these changes at the corporate level actually have any type of impact on the day-to-day? I'm thinking back to when Mini brought in all sorts of people. Did that actually move the needle? Because to me, this represents Hyundai trying to get out in front of the same inventory challenges that their peers are having right now.
What it indicates to me is that every manufacturer out there at the moment is faced with cost-cutting decisions that need to be made because the markets are, I guess a polite way to say it, are somewhat roiled in the sense that EV sales are growing, but not quite at the rate that everybody thought they would. Hybrids are growing at a much quicker rate than many manufacturers thought they would.
Yep.
And a lot of manufacturers are finding themselves behind the 8 ball to a certain degree, and they're looking at ways to save some money. So, you look at Hyundai and they go, okay, well, we have an East and a West. Do we really need to have one person for the West and one person for the East? Why don't we just have one person overseeing it all? And why don't we streamline and cut back on duplicative and unnecessary positions? And that's what they're doing, because I think they're all beginning to recognize that there are serious financial headwinds facing just about every manufacturer out there. And so either you start to make changes early, or you end up like Stellantis or Nissan. It is what we have seen and what I have seen in all the years that I was in retail automotive is that most manufacturers, most dealers are reactive and not proactive. And this just could be an example of a manufacturer going, maybe based on what we see happening in Germany to brands like Volkswagen and Mercedes and BMW, and the struggles they're having, and to see what's going on with Stellantis and the struggles they're having. Maybe it's just time for us to be proactive as opposed to reactive.
I pulled up on the screen. Let's look at Hyundai's inventory situation a little bit. I pulled up the Hyundai Palisade. The Palisade was one of those vehicles that during the pandemic was selling significantly
Yeah.
over MSRP. Lots of people paying well over MSRP to
Oh,
get their
yeah.
hands on a Palisade and the Kia alternative, the Telluride here. So obviously we've got the MSRP. It's pretty normal now that Hyundai makes a nearly $50,000 vehicle. We know the dealer invoice price. We know the target discount. What I'm interested in, Dad, there it is right there. 81 days supply of the 2024 SEL Hyundai Palisade, which is high, but not too terribly high. What I find interesting is then when we look at Hyundai, who had been a real leader and continues to be a leader on the electric vehicle front, we've
Yes.
got a Ioniq 5 SE. We come down here, a 90-day supply, so a little higher, but nothing too crazy. When Hyundai has experimented with really high performance electric vehicles, in this
Yes.
case, the N trim level, you can see here, Dad, now we're up to a 450 days supply. And obviously the N is more of a specialty vehicle. So what
Yes.
about the Ioniq 6, the SEL with a $51,000 price tag? Well, that has a 246 days supply. So Hyundai is definitely feeling the pressure right now for some of their vehicles. And I would even say for I know, it was a couple of years ago that the Palisade was selling above MSRP, but the fact that you should be shooting for a $3,000 discount on a brand new Hyundai Palisade, like that demonstrates that they're struggling even with their non-electric inventory.
And
Right?
what's that day supply again?
For the Palisade here
Yeah.
on the SEL trim, it's an 81 days supply.
Okay. And 2 years ago, that might have been a 20-day supply, a 25-day supply.
Yeah.
So it's 3 to 4 times more inventory than what dealers had on hand way back when, and way back when is 18 to 24 months ago. So you can see that it's impacting them. It's impacting their sister company, Kia. It there are Every one of these manufacturers is struggling to some degree or another. And so it just makes sense to me that the smart ones are looking at what's going on across the industry and saying, let's do something before the anvil falls on our head and it's too late.
Yep.
And so I think there's this semblance of being proactive here as just opposed to reactive. Now that's not to say that most of them were proactive with all these investments into EVs, and that's what cost so many of these companies so dearly, because they missed their bet on the market and how quickly it would turn to EVs. So it's a crapshoot either way.
Yep.
And sometimes when you get it right, damn, you look like the brightest guy in the room. And other times when you get it wrong, well, you're floating back down to earth with your golden parachute like Carlos Tavares.
Now we have another automaker that was making waves last week. This is from Nissan and Infiniti. Infiniti lets U.S. retailers co-locate with Nissan in a drive to survive. I want to cover this story, obviously, and I also want to mention there are 15,000 new Infiniti vehicles for sale nationwide, and wonder why Infiniti is struggling so much. Their new QX80. Who is out there trying to buy a $112,000 Infiniti QX80? I don't know who that is.
I do.
Yeah,
The same person who's not buying the Grand Cherokee, a Grand Wagoneer L, and the Lincoln Navigator. I mean, it's ridiculous what some of these prices are. It is admitting defeat when you suddenly say to your dealer partners, listen, we know we've always wanted separate facilities for Infiniti because, well, the experience has to be different when you're buying an Infiniti than when you're buying a Nissan. And now suddenly they're saying, okay, we realize to have a completely separate facility and everything might be too expensive. So if you wanted, and if you qualify, we'll allow you to move Infiniti back into your Nissan dealership. However, there are caveats attached to that. and that is you still have to have separate sales staff and a separate service staff, and pretty much a cordoned off separate showroom to keep the Nissan riffraff out of the Infiniti side of things. It's sort of kind of like when Hyundai came out with Genesis. And originally, Genesis was sold at Hyundai dealerships. And eventually, they realized, well, if you're going to give a full luxury experience, that ain't really going to happen inside a Hyundai showroom. So, eventually they convinced their Genesis dealers that they need to build standalone Genesis facilities. Yep. The same thing happened to Nissan years ago. The same thing happened to Acura. Same thing happened to Lexus. It all happens. And then when the world goes to hell in a handbasket, it's like, well, you know what? You can put them back together again. Because the same thing happened at Mini. Mini was originally sold at BMW dealerships. And then BMW said, no. Can't have that. Can't have the Mini customers chatting with the BMW customers. We got to have a separate Mini facility. Everybody was building Mini facilities, and now guess what? They'll let you do it right inside your BMW dealership again. Sometimes you just have to deal with the reality of the situation. And the reality is, ultimately, you might not sell enough of this upscale brand to make it make financial sense to build a separate facility for $8-10 million.
So I think folks that are interested in buying a Nissan or an Infiniti, I mean, the signs just keep getting like dimmer and dimmer for those two brands. The desperation continues to grow. I'll share, Dad, some of the partners that we work with have asked us specifically here at CarEdge, can we help them get more Infiniti deals across the finish line between now and the end of the year? And I'm like, I can talk about Infiniti. I could show people how they have a high days supply, how the vehicles are overpriced, how you should negotiate a bunch off of MSRP, but people actually have to want to buy these Infinitis. And so, I can't really help with that. So I'm hearing the desperation not only from our partners, then obviously we see headlines like this in automotive news. It seems like kind of universal Infiniti is really struggling right now. And obviously we know Nissan is as well.
They're the same company. And Infiniti has always been the redheaded stepsister when it came to the upscale brand. Yeah, I do remember, and you probably don't know this, but the original Infiniti showroom that was built on McDowell Road in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Okay,
that was the first one that was ever built, and all Infiniti dealerships were supposed to be patterned after this one with that Zen-like feel, and it wasn't supposed to look or feel anything like an automobile dealership, which is maybe why they never sold really well. I don't know.
I'm kind of curious, Dad, if you're up for it, let's do this together. Actually, let's come to CarEdge.com research. I want to use our car comparison, and let's compare an Infiniti. Let's do the QX50.
Okay.
So a small compact SUV.
Yeah.
And let's compare it to, what's the Lexus equivalent? I guess the GS 350? Let's see. Nope, that's a sedan. Whoopsies. I meant the GX. Let me grab that. Lexus. The GX 460 is too big. The RC 350. There we go.
Yeah.
The RX 350, excuse me. All right, so now we're comparing the Infiniti QX50 against the Lexus RX 350. I think fairly comparable vehicles, higher MSRP on the Lexus, but really what I'm curious is, cost of ownership and then value rating. Yeah, there you go. Your answer's right there.
Yeah.
Oh, people are saying the NX. Okay, so let's see if we can compare it to the NX too. Thanks, guys. So the value rating for the Lexus, even though it has a higher MSRP, is A-. The value rating for the Infiniti is a D. Obviously, we've got higher depreciation.
Sounds like my high school GPA.
Let me see if I've got the Lexus. Where is it? Lexus. Let's see. Do we have the NX in here? Yeah, the NX 300. Let's look at that. Yeah, it's got a lower starting MSRP. And let's come down here. Yeah, B rating. on the Lexus NX compared to the D rating for the Infiniti. Lower cost of it. Like, no wonder the Infinitis aren't selling. They just don't compare and compete well against the Infinitis
And at a
or
certain
against the
point,
other luxury vehicles.
when Infinity was claiming to be a luxury vehicle, I believe it was 2 years ago or 3 years ago, where they said, you know what, we're not a luxury vehicle. We're not even going to pretend to be a luxury vehicle anymore. We're going to be a premium vehicle, but not necessarily a luxury vehicle.
Yep.
Well, when you see the QX80s for $112,000, that seems like quite the premium for a premium vehicle.
Yeah.
that sounds more like luxury vehicle pricing. But the good news is, if you're driving that vehicle with all your friends and you get a phone call, well, you can just Bluetooth that phone call into the headrest speakers behind your ears, so that it's not picking up all the extraneous noise that your friends are making. And because that is such an important item to have in your, I don't know how I've lived without that in my automobile all these years.
There you go, folks. Don't know how we've lived without it. All right, a little bit more negative news, and then we'll end on a positive note, I promise. This is another headline in automotive news. Stellantis, we talked about earlier, and VW brace for another rough year as industry struggles on multiple fronts in Europe. So again, demonstrating that the challenges are not just here domestically in the United States, but they are global. And then we also had some buy and sell activity. Lithia, Group 1, AutoNation divest stores in Q3 and Q4. Not a good sign when the car dealers are also selling off their dealerships. Again, just more negative headlines about the state of the auto industry right now.
Well, I would think with the publicly traded groups, when they buy dealerships, they don't buy them one at a time. They buy smaller groups. Somebody that has maybe 8 or 10 stores. Well, not every one of those 8 or 10 stores that they buy in one fell swoop or make financial sense, are performing at a level that you'd want them to perform at. And so, even though these publicly traded groups have a lot of money, eventually they look at each store, and once they start realizing which stores are dramatically underperforming, oftentimes they decide just to sell them off rather than try and change management within those stores and let somebody else deal with it. And so that's what I think you're seeing with some of the dealerships that are being sold by your major public groups. As much as you want everyone to be a top performing store, not everyone's going to be a top performing store.
Let's jump here to the chat, Dad. We've got from Dreadnought. Thank you,
Dreadnought.
Dreadnought. $100,000 MSRP, insult to families living paycheck to paycheck. This has been the strategic decision making from automakers for the past 3 years, 4 years, 5 years.
I think $100,000 MSRP vehicles insults families of wealthy people as well.
Yeah, it's like mind-boggling how expensive these things have become. Rich, incredibly grateful for your contribution. Thank you, sir. Guys, should I buy a stand-up scooter that does 80 miles per hour for my transport needs? I am 74, or I turned 74 in a week. No, that is very risky. Don't do that.
Can I say something? As I drove to the Acme this morning, I saw a woman on the sidewalk on a scooter moving along pretty quickly, and I thought to myself, is there a Vespa in my future? Should your father be schlepping around Ventnor on a Vespa?
No.
And then I had this vision in my mind, where I just kind of lost my balance a little bit, and I can see the thing turning over, and am I going to roll the right way so that I don't break every friggin' bone in my body? So I think I'll get a car.
From Cloapo. Thank you, Cloapo. Zach, they are only $2,000 apart. Why does the Infiniti have a D versus a Lexus? Why such a major difference? Let's break it down. Thanks for asking the question, Cloapo. So I'm coming back here. I'm on CarEdge.com. Under research, I click on compare cars, or I can just go to CarEdge.com/compare comparison. Let's go to Nissan here. Oh, whoops, we weren't on a Nissan. We were on the Infiniti, excuse me.
Yeah,
Infiniti.
and I'm going to suggest that a lot of it has to do with how they depreciate,
Exactly.
and what they're worth as used cars.
Exactly. So I'm going to press submit again here. Give this a second to load. So we've got all the specs comparison right here. You can break all of that down, and wow, there is a lot. But what we want to focus in on is the cost of ownership. And so the value ratings typically come from the inputs here, which are the breakdown of depreciation, maintenance, fuel costs, interest costs, and insurance costs. And you can see, like my dad said, the depreciation expense is 40% of your cost of ownership over here for the Infiniti compared to 38%. Your maintenance cost is 5.71% compared to 4%. So you can just see the factors there, depreciation and then maintenance, which is also likelihood of a major repair, is significantly higher. So because of that, that's where the value rating is coming from. You can also, just to make it clear for everyone, if I come up here to the top, let me see here. Oh, I can't just click. I can only view listings. I was going to say, if you go to research and then let's type in Infiniti here and we'll do the QX50. This will take me to the page specifically about this vehicle, and I can jump down to cost of ownership. And from here, I can see all those cost of ownership in a breakdown that gets even more granular. So it all just comes back to cost of ownership, Calepo, and how it compares between the two vehicles. Or in this case, the rating is actually against all vehicles in that category.
Yes. And
Yeah.
and some depreciate faster than others. Some are more popular than others. And so that's got everything in the world to do with it.
Yep, 100%. Dad, let's see if we can help Kyle, being Kyle Bush, excuse me,
Yes.
being Kyle Bush. Please help me, Zach. I emailed you about a Kia EV9 GT line that was bought back by Kia from the original owner. Need advice on buying. Search Lemon. All right, let me see if I can find this email. Kia EV9 Lemon. Let's see. Sorry, Kyle. I'll share my screen so that everyone can see. I'm not seeing it. I've got a Google alert, but that's about it when I search Kia EV9 Lemon. If you want to give us some context here in the chat, we'd be more than happy to try and help. Maybe it didn't come through to me, but yeah, would love to help. And then Justice says, don't. Advice over.
Yeah, I mean, why do you want to buy a lemon law buyback? They've already proven that there were some issues and they couldn't take care of them. So you're buying it with the hope that they really did correct the issues, and you don't know that for a fact. So you could just be setting yourself up for many visits to your local Hyundai dealer.
Yeah, you're not a huge fan of buying a lemon buyback vehicle, are you?
I am not.
Yeah. Lemon buyback. Search that. All right. Being Kyle Bush, we'll try it. Lemon buyback. I've got an email here from David Langle. Nice to see you, David Langle, in my email inbox. But unfortunately, I don't see one here from you. I would say, being Kyle Bush, if you want to go ahead and send me another email, you can send it to me or help@caredge.com. We'll be sure to address that when it comes through. From Matthew. Thank you, Matthew. We appreciate the kind contribution. Cloepo. In 10 years, you can sell the Lexus. You'll need to pay long haul tower to find nearest wrecking yard that will accept the Infiniti, in my opinion. Yeah. Again, I really do think when you dig into the cost of ownership breakdowns, so you can click through on each of those and really see like the charts and graphs for 10 to 12 years cost of ownership. That's a lot of what goes into those value ratings. So thank you for that perspective, Matthew. And Eric, we appreciate your kind contribution as well. If U.S. automakers focus only on the expensive trucks and SUVs for margin, they'll be handing market share to Asian companies. And if they change their mind, it may not come back again. We've talked about this ad nauseum. This is what happened when Toyota came to the United States for the first time in the late 50s and early 60s. This is the same playbook that's happening right now with the Asian import brands.
Yep, hasn't changed. That and the same thing will happen if Chinese brands ever come to the States. They'll be so much cheaper than everybody else. It's just the way it is.
It feels somewhat inevitable, honestly. But the big thing that could make that not happen are obviously the tariffs that we've talked about. That could be a big detractor from potential import of cheaper vehicles from other countries. Dad, let's call it a show for today. If we can help anyone, CarEdge.com. Our team is swamped right now. It's the end of the year. If you're in the market for a new car, This is really the best time of year to be in the market to make a move on that. Used cars beginning of next year, we anticipate getting really busy. We have all sorts of different products, services, resources that can help you back on CarEdge.com. So if you're in the market, if you know someone who's in the market, please make them aware of CarEdge. Have them Google search us and end up on the website or on the YouTube channel. We are doing the best we can here over the next couple of weeks to make sure that there are a lot of cars, trucks, and SUVs with bows on them in people's driveways, knowing they got
Absolutely.
a good deal. So, Pops, we'll be back tomorrow, 9 a.m. Pacific time, 12 p.m. Eastern time for more CarEdge Live. Thank you as always, man.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you back here tomorrow.